Hello! In this video, I'm going to deploy a web app to the internet so that anyone can access it. I'll probably take it down after I write it because it's not going to be super secure, but in theory, these are all the parts you need to get a Go server running on the internet so that you can send the links to your friends and family and show them the awesome stuff you're building. This video is prompted by a conversation I had with a coworker discussing the vast gap between what you barely need to get something running on the internet and what is often used in a lot of large enterprises, such as Cloud Foundry or Kubernetes. There's these tools that make it so that when you run stuff on the internet, it comes with a lot of things to make it better for big companies and makes it more stable. If you need to make sure your service or your web server is just always up and doesn't go down because you may lose a lot of money or whatever you need to do, you may need to use one of these very large tool sets. But for just running your own little web server and for development and proof of concepts, you really don't need all of that. And especially if you're learning and just getting into the industry, it's fun and valuable to kind of iteratively grow those skills. So you start with something simple and then you add more knowledge or add more complexity and configuration as your knowledge increases. So let's get started. So I'm going to build a very simple Go application that serves just hello world. It's not going to be anything fancy. This isn't a Go tutorial. I love writing in Go. It's very exciting to me when I get to sit down and write code, but today I'm not going to do that tutorial. So I'm just going to create a folder here. Let's call this hello, and I'm already in my home directory. So let's go into the desktop and let's go into hello. This is actually right here, so I don't really need this anymore, but I think it's kind of fun to be able to see what's happening. So let's create a file called, let's create our Go kind of configuration for the directory so that the Go tool knows how to build the application. And for that, we're just going to do something really simple. And it's just going to be go mod init, and we'll just call our application hello. And so that created this file. And then let's use Atom to actually build this. I usually use golang, but I'm going to use something free today just to make it easier to follow along. And I'm going to create a file called main.go. This is where the server code is going to be. I'm declaring the package as main, so this is going to be just a simple executable program. And let's declare our main function and HTTP, and we'll tell it where it's going to run. We'll run it on port 3000. We're going to configure this, change it later to port 80 so it runs on the server, but for now we'll just keep it to 3000, hard code it. And we need to do this now. So listen and serve, this helper method isn't really secure. It doesn't have a lot of good defaults, but I don't really want to go into how to harden it and make it secure because HTTP timeouts are complicated and are very much application specific. And configuring it would require us to go into a little bit more of the HTTP package and how it works with the net package. So we'll just keep this simple. And move on. And okay. And this is a little hard to read, so I'm going to just pull it out and do a quick little refactor here. Oh, I already had that. And we'll just call this hello and point. So this function will be called every single time the server gets a request. And I'm not going to add any additional path routes or any query parameters yet. Let's just keep it simple. Let's go with HTTP rest write header. I usually would use, there's constants in the HTTP package, so I don't have to write out numbers, but just to keep it simple, I'm going to use the 200 status code, which is the way the server tells the browser that the request went totally fine. And then I'm just going to write. Once again, this is another thing I would usually use a different package for, but we're just keeping it simple today. And this is just going to write the string to the response. Probably could set the content type on this, but this is sufficient. Like, this is a totally working server. I'm going to also log something out just to have some log lines to show that our service is working. And so this is going to be the log, and we're just going to go println, and we'll just print hello, that endpoint was called. Usually when you're writing like highly available systems and more advanced usage, you probably want to do, you don't want to log a line for every request, and much worse, many lines, because that can really clog up your deployment infrastructure. But this is really simple, and I don't plan to get much traffic, so I'm just going to log one line per request. So there's that. This is a fully acceptable web server in Go, and let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to just go run main.go. And from here, I'm going to open here, and this is going to be on localhost, which means I'm not deploying it to a server yet, it's just running locally. And if I request that, I got a request, and I got a little log line with the current timestamp. There we go. So now let's get this deployed to a server. So I already purchased a domain called, oh, that's not it. Yeah, handler host. So in the future, we should just be able to go handler host like that, and that goes to a website. But right now, this DNS record or this name doesn't point to anywhere. So we've got to set that up. So the first thing I did, and this takes about 30 minutes for this information to move over. So I did it earlier, but I added these NS1, NS2, and NS3 custom DNS records to this. I don't know if record is the right word, but pointers to this registrar's website. And so that's set up there. And so I changed it from the default, which is basic DNS, to custom DNS, and that's it. And let's see, I'm gonna need to chop that off on the bottom because it has my address. And let's see what else. So we have Namecheap, which is where I got my domain, and now we need to buy a server. So DigitalOcean makes this super easy. I'm just gonna get the cheapest little one, $5 a month. I would recommend, if just for usability, you get something with more than one CPU. So like the 10, or so I guess this would be the $15 a month is pretty solid. I usually use this one for more of my production use stuff that I build, but the $5 a month one is totally fine. Let's pick a data center. Let's just go San Francisco 2, and we don't need any of this. We can add monitoring, which would give us some nice metrics on it here once we have it built, which is kind of cool. Selecting and using a SSH key is a good practice too. I can probably add a link to a whole video on it, but suffice to say, create an SSH key. You can just copy your public key onto here and then save it and then select it. And so now this will allow me to connect to the server over from my computer. And I'm not going to enable backups, and let's just name this. And we'll call this hello. And we'll create this droplet. This takes about a minute. So as that's running, I'm going to go over to the networking tab, and I'm going to delete the previous one I had. Let's do that. And let's create a new one. And add that domain. Now that we're in here, we should see that the handler host NS records here match up what's over on this side. The order doesn't matter, but the fact that these three exist should mean these three should be okay. Now we're going to do the @ symbol, which just says use this handler host. If you wanted to actually use an existing domain that you already own and change your, like use something else, like we could do hello.handler.host, and you've probably seen this type of like add-on domain stuff before. But because we're just going to use the root domain, we're just going to go handler.host, and let's just pick our instance there, and let's set this TTL to 60. It's a good practice to set this to a very high number, or relatively high number. Like 3600 is reasonable. It's an hour. It's just you're better, what's the word for it? It'll make your users' experience a little bit faster if they access your service from a new computer. It also is just being kind to the people's servers you're using, like DigitalOcean's infrastructure. I'm going to use 60 seconds because it's not that big of a deal, because I'm going to delete this soon. So we'll do that. And that is set up. Now I'm going to go back here. I'm going to stop serving the little web app I wrote, and let's build it. So I'm going to build the Go binary on my Mac. So we're going to use cross compilation, and to do that in Go, it's just goose, and that is how you pronounce Go OS. So this is how you set the Go operating system, but we pronounce it goose. And then we have to set Gorch, which is the Go architecture. So which architecture the Go tool should use, but pronounced Gorch. And this is going to be AMD64, and then Go build, and then we're going to get a little binary here called hello. So let's just do ls-la, and you can see that this hello is an executable, little x's there. Now we need to get this executable onto our server. So I'm going to copy it up, but to do that, let's make sure that our DNS server is actually pointing to the right place. So I'm going to use a tool called Dig, which you can install via Brew, which is a package manager for Mac OS. If you're on Linux, you could use apt install Dig, I think. Probably want to look it up, but I'm just going to run Dig and then handler.host, and it should tell me that this IP is going to be 138. So let's see, is that the right IP? Do those match up? If these match up, then we are golden. We can move ahead. Awesome. So now that we have that, we're going to log on there. So the way that DigitalOcean sets up these hosts is they set it up with a root account, which is really not a great way to get everything started, because this is not secure. You don't want to be able to access root remotely. You want to create a separate user that you can SSH into, and then from there privilege escalate into root. But because this is a simple thing, and I'm not showing you how to harden a Linux server, that's a separate video. Let's just start with this. We're not even going to set up any firewalls. So this is going to be really kind of maybe a little under secure. So let's do this. So I'm going to just SSH on there. Oops. Oh, I did this thing. I forgot. I had this set up to go to a different server before, so I need to change a file here, and I'm going to do that on the other side because this might share some information that's probably not safe to show on the internet. And let's look up. Yeah, SSH does some stuff to kind of make things more secure. Oops. Oh, I didn't show anything. That's good. Okay. I'm going to just pull this back over. And let's SSH on there. And now that's adding that host, which is great. And now we're on the server. So that was just proving that worked. And let's copy the file up. So we're going to copy SCP. And we're going to copy hello, and we're going to copy it to a directory on the remote server in the temp directory. And that should work. And now that we have that up, let's get on the server and configure that. And let's go there. I'm going to move what's in temp, server, or hello to the current directory. So now we have the executable. On Ubuntu, it shows that an executable is in green, which is kind of cool. And now that that's here, we can, let's see, just run it. And when we do that, and we go to, let's actually open the right host. I'm going to do open handler.host, and let's go HTTP. That'll open. You don't need to do this. You can just do this from the browser. I just am showing off with this. Oh, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Oh, you know why? There we go. We forgot to change the port here, so it's always going to be on port 3000. So that's not cool. Let's make this 80. So by default, when you don't add a port, the browser says to use port 80. So let's change that. So let's go back to here, and instead of just typing this in, because locally we want to use 3000, but on the server we want to use port 80. Let's go os.getEnv, and let's do port and op, so os here. And now this will load it up from the environment, which is exactly what we want. Now that we did that, we're going to have to upload this again, build and upload. So let's go exit. And then there's going to be one more piece of configuration we're going to want to do. I'm just going to go up to history and build it again. And we need to write a systemd config. So we have to write a unit file now. So to write a unit file, this is going to like maintain our service, because now that I exited the connection and I try to hit this again, since I'm no longer SSH'd onto the server running that process, the hello process on the server went down, which is not what we want. So we need to have the operating system on the server actually make sure the process stays running. So to do that, I'm going to create a unit file. So it's just going to call this hello.service, and let's just call this unit and description. This is just helpful, hello app, and let's define the service. And let's go environment is going to be port 80. So it's going to run it on the HTTP port. Let's call this type simple. This is very simple. This is all, there's actually a really good article on the DigitalOcean docs website. So if you just like look up how to write a unit file DigitalOcean in Google or some search engine, you'll be able to find an article on how to set this up all properly. But I'm just kind of doing some bare bones configuration. So whenever the service goes down, just restart it, and then restart second. So how long should it wait before it tries to restart? I'm going to call it like 5 seconds should be fine. And then working directory, and then this is just going to be root, because that's what we saw when we did the pwd up here. And then let's just do exec start, and this is going to be root and hello, which is our name of our program here. That's all we need to do, and let's SCP both of these up. Hello and hello.service, and let's put them in root. So this will upload both of the files now. And let's go back to the server. So let's SSH onto the server. So then we're on the server now, and we have their service. We're going to move this hello service to, was it var? No. Etsy services? I don't know what this is. Let's see. I'm gonna start a new window over here, and let's see if I can find an article to help with this. I always forget this one. Okay, that's not the one. Understanding your Unity system files, and we're going to modify them is to put them in this directory. I kind of knew what I was looking for here, so I kind of just scanned over it. So I would recommend probably reading the whole thing. And now we moved that there, and then we can go sudo systemctl start enable hello.service ctl is what I meant to do. For some reason this wasn't put in the right place. What does this say? There we go. Just took a second, I guess. And now let's go to handler host, and we have it. That worked. And there we go. We have a service running. And to check the status of the process and to see the logs on the server, we can go here, system control, status service, and we got one hello there. We do this again, and let's quit, and then let's run this again. And now there's two hellos. So there you go. Super bare bones deployment of a Go application to a server. I hope this is offers like a lot of good jumping off points for your own like learning and digging into what is system D, what is SCP, how do you set up your SSH keys, what are the different configurations options on DigitalOcean, what is DNS. These are all things, all words you can look into and learn more about. And so yeah, I enjoyed this. I'll probably create more videos about either Go development or other things that are fun and exciting to me, and hopefully to you too. So if you have any feedback, if I spoke too quickly or there's things that I didn't really kind of ran over without describing deeply, please leave a comment. I will be happy to respond. I'll maybe even create a new video, response video. And yeah, I'd love some feedback. So like, subscribe if that's a thing that you want to do. Do that. And I will post this video later today. So